The welcome at Mount Nebo. Brother Francesco Patton, Custos of the Holy Land, inaugurated a retreat house and met with 130 young people in the 10th Franciscan March in Jordan. Cardinal Zuppi, we are too late. Let's dream big again. 160 pilgrims from Italy to the Holy Land, led by Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, President of the Italian Bishops' Conference. Catholic Action Foundation, Message of Love and Peace. A beacon of hope, love and peace reopens in Bethlehem. Catholic Action of the Custody of the Holy Land is a sign of unity and solidarity in the face of challenges. Like the night just past, the Procession of the Virgin Mary in Haifa. Requests and prayers were offered in the traditional popular procession to the Virgin Mary on Mount Carmel. Ships in the Negev desert. Christian pilgrims 1,500 years ago. In the northern Negev, traces of a Byzantine church dating back 1,500 years have been discovered. A huge and quite extraordinary construction. On Monday, the 17th of June, the Custos of the Holy Land, Father Francesco Patton, visited the Franciscan monastery of Mount Nebo. With him also the vicar, Friar Ibrahim Faltas. The Custos inaugurated a new retreat house called Tent of Moses. The structure, which has just been completed, is designed to accommodate small groups for spiritual retreats in self-management mode. Brother Patton cut the ribbon together with the Italian ambassador to Jordan, Luciano Pezzotti. Also present were other members of the Italian embassy, Father Giovanni Falorni of the Apostolic Nunciator and Father Rashid Mistri, Discreet of the Holy Land. Also at Mount Nebo, the Custos met the young people of the Franciscan March, now in its 10th edition in Jordan. There are more than 130 young people, not only from Jordan. One group came from Bethlehem in particular, and others are young people from Iraq who live here in Jordan. They left Amman on the 13th of June and arrived at Mount Nebo on the morning of Sunday the 16th. During these days of walking, they were accompanied by some friars from the Custody of the Holy Land and some religious sisters. We chose the title, I Live With You, because we live in the world every day, but our goal is to understand who we are living with and for whom. What place does the Word of God occupy in our lives? What can I offer others through the Word of God? I have always left these questions to invite young people to reflect. We often hear from young people, we are few Christians, we are a minority. This does not mean that we cannot always carry the message of Jesus, the message of love and charity. The young people made a physical journey, but also a spiritual one.
I came to the Franciscan March because I felt empty at a certain time in my life and I needed to fill myself with God. In the March, I found this opportunity to fill myself with God and to find myself again.
It is a spiritual march that made me get in touch with my heart to discover myself in a deeper way, even though I experienced the difficulty of being a refugee. It has given me the opportunity to meet people from different cultures and traditions and make new friends.
The force that drove me to participate in this Franciscan March is to seek God. I seek that God who lives and participates in our lives in every place, in every step we take. And then I wanted to open up to other cultures, to get to know other people who share my faith.
The Custos celebrated Mass for the young people of the March and then stopped to talk to them, answering their questions.
Un bel numero di giovani ragazzi e ragazze si sono.
A good number of the young people, boys and girls, took this week to reflect on the meaning of their lives and their relationship with Jesus Christ. They have made a good journey and surely the Lord has spoken to their hearts.
Hanno fatto un bel cammino e sicuramente il Signore ha parlato al loro cuore.
The wish that the Custos addressed to them in his homily was to be open to the work of the Spirit and inflamed by his love to follow in the footsteps of Jesus. When there is passion, we have no problem following in the footsteps of Jesus, even when those footsteps are on an uphill road like the one leading to Nebo. Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, president of the Italian Episcopal Conference, led a pilgrimage of 160 faithful from all over Italy to the Holy Land. First stop was the Basilica of the Agony at Gethsemane, where they were welcomed by the Custos of the Holy Land, Brother Francesco Patton, and the Patriarch of Jerusalem of the Latins, His Beatitude Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa. Gethsemane is the place of betrayal, but also the place where Jesus hands himself over, where in a certain sense a new perspective of life is born. Especially in this context of great mistrust, the sign we receive here, and which I would like this group to understand as well, is that we need to give trust. Many journalists are present in this group. They are expressly asked to consider how negative and counterproductive is a communication that does not take into account the heroic efforts of the many religious and civil realities that daily try to mend human relationships and bonds of respect and friendship between different identities and sensitivities. The Italian pilgrims, in a short but intense time of only 4 days, split into different groups and met separately with many local realities. They expressed both Israeli society, such as the families of the hostages, and Palestinian society, such as volunteers and workers from Bethlehem, Beit Zahor, Haifa, and so on. There is a need for a love that already unites these two pains, and that avoids rankings, because if mine necessarily goes against yours, it seemed to me to be a very important indication. Cardinal Zuppi visits the Caritas Baby Hospital in Bethlehem, and on this occasion he talks with the parents of pediatric patients. An important visit to the Greek Orthodox Patriarch Theophilus, with whom Cardinal Zuppi addresses crucial issues on the role of the churches in the current international geopolitical scenario. Religions can have and must have great strength. They must be a great resource in the quest for peace. Not only must they never be used to generate violence or war, they must seek to be, by their very essence, a bridge for dialogue. Theophilus, undoubtedly the Patriarch, is convinced of this, and appropriate answers must be found. We come too late, however, because unfortunately we have been watching too much. Religions must be present with their voices to point out possible paths for peace and to help the way of peace.
Possibili vie di pace e per aiutare la via della pace.
On several occasions, Zuppi invited the Italian dioceses to resume pilgrimages to the Holy Land without fear. Some movements and ecclesial realities, in fact, especially lay ones, have never stopped bringing their members here to the Holy Land despite the conflict. Today, Italian bishops are asked for a surplus of courage to show themselves as bearers of a faith that does not let itself be overcome by discouragement and fear. For Zuppi, this must also translate into a new political commitment on the part of the Catholics. We have to dream big. We have a big dream that Pope Francis has set out in Fratelli Tutti, which is a big vision. We have terribly weakened the instruments that were intended with great foresight after the Second World War. And now we understand that the Third World War is worldwide, because wars are worldwide, and the third one would really be the last, something that the survivors in the second one had very clear when they saw that horror. Let us try to understand, without having to measure ourselves with the horror again, that it is time to give ourselves rules and instruments.
Sono stati tutti incontri stupendi, c'è sempre la volontà da parte di tutti.
They were all wonderful meetings. There's always the will on everyone's part to try to overcome this terrible situation. We met the UN official who explained to us what they are trying to do to help the population. We met with Dahoud's family from the Tent of Nations and listened to what they are doing to encourage encounters and solidarity and the possibility of staying on this land so that life can be shared and good for more people.
In maniera che sia, come dire, condiviso e la vita sia condivisibile e buona per più popolazioni, insomma.
Ecco che la pace è frutto della giustizia.
Here peace is the fruit of justice, and justice means precisely recognizing the rights of the person. And this is a warning to those who are responsible for the present and the future of humanity. It cannot continue on the road of the annihilation of rights. Bethlehem, the city of peace that depends on the arrival of pilgrims from all over the world, is one of the cities most affected by the war. The outdoor gardens of the Catholic Action Foundation of the Custody of the Holy Land were reopened on the 9th of June. They are a beacon of hope, a message of love and peace, and a call for unity and solidarity in the face of challenges. The Franciscans of the Custody of the Holy Land always care about the churches and the people who are the living stones. Through this center, an important part of their mission is realized, as evidenced by the massive presence of all segments of the Christian community. This building nourishes their spirituality and provides them with a space and a place to experience different activities and aspects of their social, human life. It is an institution that dates back to 1952 and has unique facilities throughout the nation. The reopening of this institution after a period of closure instills hope in the people of the city of Bethlehem, who have been waiting for this moment for months, because this place offers a refuge for all. The objective of the Catholic Action Foundation is to create a global and supportive environment that gives young people the opportunity to relieve stress and develop their talents in sports, cultural, spiritual and social fields. Those in charge of this foundation believe that creating these safe and stimulating places helps to build a cohesive and prosperous society that values the principles of solidarity and cooperation. We are used to this great foundation playing this essential role in raising children and creating new generations. Catholic Action is used to playing a leading role in sport, culture and social events. The reopening of the foundation instills hope in people and illuminates the dark rooms of our hearts, despite the difficult circumstances and unfavorable political climate. Yes, in the dark night, the moon is missing. In an atmosphere shrouded in the clouds of war, requests and prayers were offered in a traditional, popular and spiritual procession to the Virgin Mary of Mount Carmel in Haifa, so that heavenly protection may never be lacking through her intercession.
This procession started after a terrible war that created a disaster here, and the Virgin saved Haifa from the terrible situation for destruction. We are here to ask the same thing to Holy Virgin, to save us from the destruction of this war.
In the difficult conditions of war in which we live, we turn our prayers to the Virgin Mary and ask for her intercession and protection.
The march started on the 16th of June from the city to the monastery of St. Elias Stella Maris on Mount Carmel. It was attended by Marian movements, various confraternities, lay people, nuns and priests, led by the Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa. Some scout groups from Haifa and Galilee created a joyful atmosphere. This year, due to the current circumstances, only 5 scout teams were present, but no group from the West Bank was able to attend. We asked the Virgin Mary to protect us and all the others. The request for protection from the Virgin Mary was the most frequent among the participants, but not the only one. We are here today to participate in the Virgin's March, to ask for her protection and to strengthen our presence as Christians and young people in the Holy Land.
We always ask for Our Lady's intercession for our families, for our spiritual and social life, for the sick, and we are all certain that Our Lady will answer our prayers.
In the courtyard of the Stella Maris Monastery, the final prayer of the celebration was held. Patriarch Pizzaballa asked for the Virgin Mary's intercession to free this country from the violence and hatred that is in our hearts, and to bring to each of our homes and families the consolation that only a mother can bring. The Cardinal imparted the solemn blessing to the assembly present. The Israel Antiquities Authority discovered traces of a Byzantine church dating back 1,500 years during archaeological excavations in the northern Negev. The roof, built of wood and covered with ceramics, was supported by 3 parallel rows of stone columns and had 3 apses facing east. According to Dr. Elena Kogan, an archaeological researcher at the Israel Antiquities Authority, the discovered church was a huge and quite extraordinary construction.
The size of this church clearly shows that it has served many people.
On the 4th of June, there was the first conference on archaeological heritage in Rahat. Dr. Jana Chinovic of Ben Gurion University said that the spread of Christianity in the rural areas of the Negev began in large cities such as Gaza, an important Byzantine city that included many churches. From there, it spread to many towns and the countryside, mainly due to its trade links.
The main economy of this area of the Negev was the wheat fields, which provided bread for the big cities.
In the second half of the 5th century, churches and monasteries in the Negev began to provide spiritual assistance to Christian communities. The excavations brought to light a second intriguing discovery: the remains of a ship carved into the walls of the church.
These are drawings carved by pilgrims who came here on their way to visit the holy places to tell the story of their arrival here.
The crosses carved on one of the walls of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem are an example of relics left by pilgrims. The shapes of the ships that the pilgrims carved contain significant archaeological information.
The information is interesting and significant because it allows us to identify the types of ships used in the Byzantine era 1,500 years ago. All engravings had 3 distinctive features: the body of the ship, which could be rectangular or triangular, the mast, that of sailing ships, and the sails themselves.
The port of Gaza was probably the pilgrims' first destination after crossing the sea. The church is located south of Rahat.
Rahat is a short distance from Gaza, a journey of about a day's walk. Apparently, there was also once a house where pilgrims could rest and pray after a long journey.
The discovery of a Byzantine church in the Negev opens a window into the world of Christian pilgrims who visited the Holy Land some 1,500 years ago. The Christian presence in the Negev continued until the 8th century, when mosques began to be built. Open yourself to a gesture of solidarity and support the mission of the Custody of the Holy Land. The Christian Media Center spreads the good news of Jesus by making known to the world the spirituality of the holy places and the lives of the Christians who live here. Your contribution will help us bring the proclamation of the risen Lord, the most urgent of all, to men and women of every language and nation. To help us concretely, open the QR code. Your choice makes a difference.